Hey folks, so just going to do a new sort of updated video on these two hilts that I am selling. This is my Ka'Tano Clone Wars pair. And I had an older video that I had done for these, but I've changed the config on these since then, and I've sort of updated, modified the blade styles that are part of the config. Not that that'll actually make big difference today because it's during the day, so you won't really be able to see white blades during the day anyway. But I figured it'd probably just be better to do a new video anyway. That way, people know what I'm showing you is as current as it can be. So these two sabers are for sale. I really would prefer selling them as a set, and in fact, I think I'm probably going to insist that I do sell them as a set and not take individual purchases for either one, because I really want to move both of them, and I don't want to sell one and be left with the other that won't sell because its pair is gone. So in that vein, I'm going to make the price for the set very reasonable, hopefully irresistible for some. But before we get into that, first I want to demo the internals for you, show you how the sabers turn on, what the internals look like, and then I'll pop a blade into one of them and just run through the sound fonts so people know what's on the saber. Okay. So let's start off with the shoto. So by the way, these are both SaberForge Ka'Tano sabers. This one is an older model. This one is a 2020 model. I'm not exactly sure when this one was. I want to say it's 2018, but I don't quote me on that. I don't exactly know when this run was done. I bought this one originally secondhand it was either from Saber Trader or from Lightsaber Market on Facebook. I purchased it from Omar Zavala, and Joe Graffeo was the one that did the install on this. These are both installed with Proffiev2.2 and Neopixel. This one I purchased empty in June 2020 from SaberForge, and I had my regular installer guy, Charles Ivanova. He did the install on this. It's a fully removable chassis, and it is a Proffie Neopixel setup with CC pins. And this, also the one that Joe installed, is also done with CC pins as well. So there's some consistency there, even though these were done by two separate installers. But let me go ahead and show you the shoto first. Okay. So this one, this is exactly the way I purchased it. So this did not come with that traditional pommel. It sort of came with a short back. And that was actually one of the reasons I purchased it, because it looked sort of more like the shoto version to me. So I went ahead and got it when it was like this. So what this has sort of an end cap that screws all the way in, and that's basically what helps hold the chassis in place. But it's also open, you'll notice, so the sound on this saber is booming loud. Even though the speakers are very similar, they're both 28mm speakers. The sound on this one is just like 1 degree louder than in the other one. Okay, so just unscrew the back out here, right? Slides right out. So this is a wired chassis, okay? You can see the wires in there. And then there is the Proffie board, SD card. It's the speaker. And that is the battery there, and then this is the kill key. Okay. I believe this is a Goth chassis. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly, but I think this is a Goth chassis that he used. Okay. So this kill key, you need to remove it. Now I have sort of, as you can tell, I have these pudgy sausage hands, so I can't pick it out with my fingers. I usually just use like needle nose pliers. And it comes right out. I'll slide it back in. Now you don't have to slide it in all the way. You just basically push this in, and it it sort of seats it down the rest of the way. And there's plenty of room in there, and the wires don't get coiled up. So the wires are relatively tight in here, so there's very little risk. I've never had an issue with the wires getting bunched up or coiled inside the Saber. So this is a 2-button, both are 2-button Profi setups. Power button is on the bottom, aux is on the top. And both configs that I did for these, there are similar configs in terms of the presets and the blade styles, the sound fonts, but they're a little bit different on the top parts of the config because the sound for each one is configured a little differently. But almost everything else about these configs for these two Sabers is the same. So if you buy these two, what you'll get from these, each one will have its own config, and I'll end up giving you both of those configs separately so that you can look at them in your Proffie OS. Okay. So I'm just going to slide a blade in here real quick and do this one up. And this is so this is your blade retention screw, your blade retention hole right there. And then this top button, I usually will sometimes loosen and tighten it. This actually serves as sort of a secondary, but really it ought to stay stationary. You don't have to move it. You can just use this for the retention.
Ka'Tano, I am no Jedi.
These are using the FET263 buttons props file. So they have gesture control. Battle mode is not enabled, but you can turn it on once the Saber is on if you want.
I was beginning to believe I knew who you were behind that mask, but it's impossible. My master could never be as vile as you.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
Okay. So, and then when you're done, just go ahead and screw this thing up. I found that I turn the Saber around it to get it started, and then once I can twist it with my fingers, and it comes out much faster. And then when you're done, just put the kill key back in. Okay. So that's the shoto. And as you can hear, it's really loud. I actually have to change my config and turn it down whenever I go and swing these things around outside at night because I've gotten complaints from the neighbors on these Sabers that they're too loud. I think the only other Saber I have that comes close to being this loud are it's my Bendu Armory Saber, which uses a KR speaker. I don't know if these are Smuggler's Outpost speakers or if they're KR speakers, but whatever they are, they're insanely loud. So that's the shoto. And then I also want to point out, so this is an as-is sale, but I also want to point out, just for due diligence here, you've got just a tiny bit of sort of paint cracking, I guess. I'm not sure what the right term for that is, but the paint is slightly chipped right next to these two buttons. Okay, there you can see that. It's not too bad, but you know it's a used Saber. I bought it used. When I bought it, it was already close to 2 years old. But the install in it is, it's fairly recent, and it's a really good install. Joe Graffeo does amazing installs. If you've ever had a Saber installed by him, his installs are really solid. And then onto the main one. So this one was installed by the guy I normally get most of my Sabers installed with. So this I purchased this one empty in June of 2020 from SaberForge in their last restock of these katanas. And then I want to say August, right around time frame, I had this one installed by Charles Ivanova. And this one is a little bit newer install. So this one has a fully removable chassis. It's using a Proffie. It's using a 28mm speaker. I don't know if this is Smuggler's Outpost or if this is KR. And then this is a non-indexed Smuggler's Outpost pin set underneath. So that means you don't have to orient this any particular way. You just have to drop it in, and it just needs to make contact. Okay. I know there's some pads that are indexed where you have like a hole on the pad where it needs to click in. Not this one. It just needs to make contact. Okay. And then the kill switch is right here. So. This one makes it particularly easy for doing Proffie updates on the config, being able to just pull the whole thing out. So usually when I'm testing like a new config for these two Sabers, I'll do it on this one first, just because it's easier to pull the full chassis out. And then now it's got gesture control, so it will do that. In fact, that's sort of kind of one of the mildly annoying things about gesture control in general on Proffie. But I think you'll find if you just move the pieces around very slowly and gently, and not just try and throw things around, you can generally avoid them, flipping on when you don't want them to. So this is sort of similar to the other one. Just slide the chassis in. This is already making contact, and when you close the hilt, just go ahead and close it until you start to feel that resistance. Right, so it's closed. And again, this is the same button orientation: power on the bottom, aux on top. So you can see that here's slight sound difference, right? This has a little bit more bass, but it's not as loud, and that's partly because of the pommel.
If it isn't that hairless harpy.
You can see all the pins are lighting up. Let's stick a blade in here. Blade retention screw is same location here. It's right on the side.
How nice of you. So Ka'Tano. Jedi.
So, I'm going to step you through the config. I'll turn this off for now so you can hear me talking. Let me open up the config real quick and show you what's on here. So again, there are two different config files. There's a main config and then a shoto that I do, but they both have the exact same sound fonts and blade styles. So the only thing really different about them are the blade length configuration on the bottom, because one is a shoto, so I have a different blade length, and then I have the volume configured slightly differently, just because their natural volume settings are just a little bit different. So I wanted to compensate for that. So the volume is set just a tiny bit higher, and the clash threshold is set just a little lower. And then on the shoto, the volume is set just a little bit lower, and the clash threshold is set just a tiny bit higher. Because it doesn't have that full pommel in the back, that sound in here really bounces around, and so this one needs a slightly higher clash threshold on the config. It's not a big deal, but that's just something you have to take into account if you end up purchasing these and you want to do modifications on the config files on your own. Totally fine. Just take that into account, that the shoto needs a higher clash threshold and a lower volume. This one needs a higher volume and a lower clash threshold. Okay, so the presets. So what I'm using is the very first one is Heroes Pack, Ahsoka from Kyberphonic. The second one I'm using is Snipper, which is a sort of a generic Ahsoka sound font that came off of the Virus Saber's LGT Core package. I'm not really sure who made that font. They didn't. I don't think they knew either. I asked them if they weren't sure who made that font. Using Commander Tano from Kyberphonic, Code Fulcrum from Kyberphonic, the Jedi Season 2 Episode 5 from Wansith, Corvus Bounty from Repulse, the Sorcerer from Kyberphonic, both the Beskar and the standard versions, and then I'm using Tano's Blade from BK Saber Sounds. So let me run through these real quick. So
I am no Jedi.
So this is Code Fulcrum. And I've made the blade styles sort of as accurate to the timeline as possible. So all of the Clone Wars, there's like one Clone Wars font on here, which is the Heroes Pack Ahsoka, which is lime green. All of the Rebels stuff, and then later is our white/silver blades, and then the preset here that is Commander Tano, which is Season 7 of the Clone Wars. That is a sky blue blade.
Hello, Master.
It's this one.
It's been a while.
It's Commander Tano. So this is a sky blue hump flicker blade style. And then this is Code Fulcrum.
Revenge is not the Jedi way.
It's the overload.
I am no Jedi.
Ahsoka Tano.
This is Jedi Season 2 Episode 5 from Wansith. It's a Beskar Prion. This one has some cool stabs to it.
Show yourself, Jedi. Where is your master?
A Mandalorian and a Jedi?
It's Corvus Bounty.
They'll never see it coming.
A little force push there, Prion.
hilts in this parts. Hundreds of hilts. May the force be with you.
And then some of these have post-off quotes, and then some don't.
So Ka'Tano, Bo-Katan sent me.
This is the sorcerer, the Beskar version. So it's going to have the Beskar Prion. Or Force Prion, rather.
So Ka'Tano, Bo-Katan sent me.
And this is the standard. Blade styles for both the Beskar version and the standard for the sorcerer are pretty much identical. I did some small changes on like the bump sizing on the clashes, but
Surrender or face the consequences.
oh, this is Tano's blade. It's got some nice accent pairings on this sound font. And this one's got a post off.
Battery power level. There are ways those who have passed on may still guide or influence the living.
And then this is the one I skipped when I started the demo. This is Heroes Pack Ahsoka, which is at the top of the config. So I tried to do the config basically linearly on a timeline. And this is I'm not sure if you can see it well in the camera, but this is a lime green unstable blade. Then it has like a bright white power up. At night, this thing looks really cool. Looks pretty good during the day too, but at night it looks really cool. Okay. So that's the sound font list. And now on to the price. So I've been bouncing these prices on these around a little bit, but the reality is that I just sort of want to sell these because they're really not part of the way I'm doing my collection now. This saber, this main saber, its actual value in terms of the quality of the install and the quality of the parts is worth close to $600. The hilt itself was, I think, it was an elite hilt. I bought empty, it's like $199, and the install and parts were easily $400. There might have been just a little bit more, but probably close to that. The only thing I will point out about this saber, and part of the reason why I'm selling these for a cheaper price, is so I showed you those sort of minor paint chips there on those buttons, and then on here there is a tiny scratch. You can barely see it, but it's the tiny scratch right here. All right, it's a little bit of a blemish. Basically, what I'm letting these go for the set for $775 for both sabers, which includes PayPal fees and includes shipping. So it's all wrapped up in one price. So that's basically what I'm selling them at. I originally got this saber, I think, so I originally paid $600 for this saber, all told, hilt plus install. And I originally paid, I want to say, $380. I think I originally paid for this saber, and its condition hasn't changed since I bought it. This is the same condition as when I bought it. So, you know, it's both sabers are, you know, if they were to be at the value they were last year, it would be close to like $950. So I'm selling it at a pretty decent discount. You know, so thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and yeah, if you're interested, go ahead and PM me. I probably will hold firm on a $775 price. Don't really want to sell them for much less than that. But you know, if you're interested, I'd love to hear from you. All right, thanks for watching, folks. Take care.